Have you ever wondered what's at the root of the Israel-Palestine conflict? This question, brimming with complexity and history, has sparked curiosity in countless minds across the globe. It's an age-old dispute, punctuated by moments of hope and despair, peace and violence. What is the origin of this conflict? What are the consequences that have rippled out over the decades? And where do we stand today? Well, buckle up, as we're about to take a deep dive into the history and current situation. The Israel-Palestine conflict didn't just happen overnight. It's a complex tapestry, woven from centuries of history, religion and politics. The roots of this conflict reach deep into the past, but let's focus on some key moments in more recent history. The late 19th and early 20th centuries witnessed the collapse of the Ottoman Empire, a vast domain that had controlled much of the Middle East, including what we now know as Israel and Palestine. As the empire crumbled, the region fell under British control. In this period, the land was populated by a Jewish minority and an Arab majority, both with distinct historical and cultural ties to the area. In 1917, during the throes of World War I, Britain issued the Balfour Declaration. This document expressed Britain's support for the establishment of a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine. However, it also stated that this should not prejudice the rights of existing non-Jewish communities. This was a contradiction that would have far-reaching consequences. After World War II, with the horrific revelations of the Holocaust, international sympathy for the Jewish people and the Zionist movement grew. The United Nations in 1947 proposed a plan to partition Palestine into separate Jewish and Arab states, with Jerusalem under international administration. Jewish leaders accepted the plan, but Arab leaders did not. Despite Arab opposition, the State of Israel was declared in May 1948. The surrounding Arab states, rejecting this new entity, launched a war. This was the beginning of a series of wars and conflicts that have marked the region for more than 70 years. So the stage was set for a conflict that has continued to this day. But remember, this is just a high-level overview. The Israel-Palestine conflict is a deeply rooted, multifaceted issue that can't be fully understood in a 2-minute summary. It's a tale of two peoples, both with profound connections to the same land, both with narratives of dispossession and survival, and it's a story that's still being written. With the stage set, the conflict was inevitable. The year was 1948. The State of Israel was newly born, and a war was looming on the horizon. This war, often referred to as the War of Independence by Israelis, or the Nakba, meaning catastrophe, by Palestinians, marked a brutal beginning to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The outcome? A heartbreaking displacement of over 700,000 Palestinians and a shift in control of territories, setting a precedent for the wars to come. Fast forward to 1967, the Six-Day War. It was a war that changed the map of the Middle East. In a remarkable show of military prowess, Israel, in just 6 days, seized control of the Sinai Peninsula, the Gaza Strip, the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and the Golan Heights. This victory, however, did not bring peace, but rather sowed the seeds of further conflict. The occupied territories became a focal point of discord, a symbol of the broader struggle between Israelis and Palestinians. Then came the Yom Kippur War of 1973, a surprise attack on Israel by Egypt and Syria on the holiest day in the Jewish calendar, Yom Kippur. This war, often regarded as a military victory for Israel, was equally a psychological triumph for the Arab states. It shattered the image of Israeli invincibility, nurtured during the Six-Day War, and rekindled Arab hopes of regaining lost territories. These wars, each unique in its cause and effect, are not just isolated events in history. They are pieces of a complex puzzle, a tangled web of historical, political and social factors that have led to the enduring Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The repercussions of these wars were not limited to the borders of Israel and Palestine. They rippled across the Middle East, shaping the geopolitical landscape of the region. These wars shaped the geopolitical landscape of the region, setting the course for the conflicts we see today. In the face of occupation and conflict, resistance was born. This resistance took many forms, but none were as prominent or impactful as the Intifadas. The First Intifada, A Palestinian uprising against Israeli rule erupted in late 1987. This was a grassroots movement, marked by widespread civil disobedience, general strikes, boycotts, and an outpouring of international sympathy for the Palestinian cause. Following 5 years of unrest, the Oslo Accords were signed in 1993, marking a significant shift in the conflict. For the first time, the Palestine Liberation Organization, or the PLO, formally recognized Israel's right to exist, and in return, Israel acknowledged the PLO as the legitimate representative of the Palestinian people. This was a landmark agreement seen by many as a hopeful step towards a peaceful two-state solution. However, the glittering optimism of the Oslo Accords soon faded. In the late 90s, the Camp David summit failed to yield a final agreement, leading to the start of the Second Intifada in the year 2000. This uprising was more violent, more destructive, and it further deepened the divisions between Israelis and Palestinians. The Second Intifada, also known as the Al-Aqsa Intifada, was characterized by a series of violent incidents, including suicide bombings and military operations, resulting in a high number of casualties on both sides. This period of intensified conflict further eroded trust and increased animosity between the two communities. These events, the Intifadas, the Oslo Accords, the Camp David summit, have all left indelible marks on the lives of the people in the region. They have shaped the narrative of the conflict, influenced international perceptions, and continue to impact the quest for peace. Despite numerous peace efforts and the sacrifices of countless individuals, a fair and just resolution has remained elusive. The path to peace is fraught with obstacles, but it is a path that must be trodden for the sake of all those whose lives have been marked by this enduring conflict. Despite peace efforts, a just resolution has remained elusive. Fast forward to today, the conflict continues. The landscape of the dispute has evolved, with new elements adding to the intricacies of the long-standing tension. One such issue that has been a thorn in the side of peace efforts is the matter of Israeli settlements. These are residential areas built by Israel on lands occupied during the Six-Day War of 1967. The international community largely views these settlements as illegal, yet they continue to grow, escalating tension and pushing the prospect of a peaceful resolution further away. The status of Jerusalem is another contentious point. Both the Israelis and Palestinians claim Jerusalem as their capital. The city, steeped in religious significance for Jews, Muslims and Christians alike, has been a hotbed of conflict. The dispute over who should control Jerusalem has been a major stumbling block in peace negotiations. Then there's Hamas. This Palestinian militant group, ruling the Gaza Strip since 2007, is considered a terrorist organization by many nations. Hamas's attacks on Israel and its refusal to recognize the Israeli state have fueled the fire of the conflict. Most recently, the conflicts have flared up once again, leading to a tragic loss of life and property. These escalations serve as grim reminders of the volatility of the situation and the urgent need for a comprehensive and lasting resolution. The current scenario is also marked by a shift in global perspectives. While some nations staunchly support Israel, others sympathize with the Palestinians. And yet, there are those who advocate for a two-state solution, a path that seems increasingly difficult as tensions escalate. In the midst of all this, it is the ordinary people of Israel and Palestine who bear the brunt of the conflict. Their lives are often overshadowed by the political maneuvers and power plays that define this ongoing dispute. The present situation is a complex web of historical, political and social issues. The path to peace is fraught with challenges, and the hope for a resolution hangs in the balance. So what have we learned from this deep dive into the Israel-Palestine conflict? We've journeyed back to the roots of the conflict, where the seeds of discord were sown over a century ago. We've seen how conflicting national aspirations, territorial disputes and religious differences led to a tangle of animosity that's been hard to unravel. We've walked through the wars that ensued, the bloodshed and the heartache, painting a picture of an age-old struggle that has left scars on both sides. We've seen how these wars only served to deepen the divide, making a path to peace seem like an uphill climb. We've also shed light on the intifadas and the peace efforts that followed. We've looked at the tireless attempts to broker peace, the treaties signed, the promises made, but we've also seen the setbacks, the breaches of trust, and the resurgence of violence. And finally, we've analysed the current situation, the tension that still simmers beneath the surface, the political complexities, and the ongoing struggle for rights and recognition. We've seen how the past continues to shape the present, adding layers to an already complicated issue. While the path to peace may seem daunting, understanding the history and complexities of the Israel-Palestine conflict is a crucial step towards finding a solution.